Hey guys, Dr. Cinema here. It's been a little bit of a while, but here I am with another video. So while the Alien franchise is, let's say, in a coma, let's turn our eyes onto the Predator franchise. In 1987, the first movie came out. It's an action/action horror classic. Arnold Schwarzenegger goes up against an alien that specializes in hunting down intelligent, more dangerous prey such as human beings. Then we got the two sequels, Predator 2 in 1990 and Predators in 2010. Two sequels. Now, going into this face-off, I always assumed that people loved Predator 2 and hated Predators. But it's actually a little bit of a flip around. But we'll get more in depth into each of the rounds here. 5 rounds. Let's begin. Round 1, main character. The main character of Predator 2 is Michael Harrigan, LA police detective played by Danny Glover, and someone who's known for the Lethal Weapon franchise, which makes sense. Arnold is known as an action star, so even though he's not in the sequel, we should get someone who's played similar roles. Now in Predators, we got the main character played by Adrien Brody. I forgot his name. Well, that's really more of an ensemble cast, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But with Adrien Brody's character, I never really felt like a huge, go, be awesome kind of thing, like it did with Arnold, or even Michael Harrigan of Predator 2. So while the loss of Arnold Schwarzenegger is certainly lost a little bit, it's very nice to have someone like Danny Glover in the main character role, someone who can still bring that same charisma. So this round obviously goes to Predator 2. Let's move on to round 2, supporting cast. From Predator 2, we've got a few supporting characters played by Gary Busey, one by Bill Paxton, a couple other supporting characters who've had their fair share of memorable lines, but in the end, it's really Michael Harrigan going up against the Predator. With Predators, it's far more of an ensemble cast, including Machete, Topher Grace, aka Eric Foreman, Mahershala Ali, where the hell did you come from? Lawrence Fishburne, and it's the guy who played Sonny Birch from Ant-Man and the Wasp. Again, I really don't know a lot about their characters' names, but these guys have memorable moments and are very entertaining, as well as the other characters that I'm leaving out. So again, Predators is much more of an ensemble cast, because the name, as you can probably tell, is supposed to mean that this movie is a little bit similar to the film Aliens from its sister franchise. Sister franchise? Cousin franchise? I don't really know. I just know the two are tied together. So with that being said, with Predators being more focused on the larger picture ensemble cast, this round obviously goes to Predators. Let's move on to round 3, action. In the original film, there really isn't as much exploding action as you might think, at least not when it came to actually fighting the Predator. With Predator 2, there is surprisingly just a little bit more exploding action, which is actually really fun to watch, seeing Michael Harrigan going up against Predator 2 in LA. But the action in Predators, since it's taking place in 2010, is just so much bigger and more well polished because of CGI advancements. But there is something to be said about the nice action of Predator 2, something that's more focused on the practical effects, and so it's more like in person. But that doesn't take away anything from the action of Predators, which is really fun to watch. Yeah, the more I'm thinking about, I'm giving this one to Predators as well. I mean, sorry, in some cases, being newer does mean you win in certain areas, so I'm giving this one to the third film. Move on to round 4, lore. So this means basically what do each of these sequels bring to the franchise as a whole in terms of lore, mythology, adding backstory to certain things. Predators showed us that there are different kinds of predators, each from different like tribes or something like that, and they have like their own little dog-like creatures. They have a entire game preserve which is on planet and it encompasses an entire planet. They of course have advanced technology like ships, and we get a little more insight about how predators like work, especially interacting with each other from different tribes. The lore given to us in Predator 2 shows us that they have a sense of honor. They don't kill kids, like at least not ones that have fake guns or no weapons. And when the Predator from Predator 2 is about to attack one woman, he sees that the woman is pregnant with an unborn child, so he decides to leave her alive. Because that's not really how the game is played. You don't kill something that's pregnant. And after Michael Harrigan defeats the Predator of Predator 2, a few other Predators show up, take the body of their fallen comrade away, and the leader of the group just sort of gives him a trophy, even saying, "Take it." And it really shows that this is, yeah, they're hunting like people and such, but they do have a sense of honor and a sense of respect for those that can best them in combat. And we do get a little bit of hint of that in Predator, especially when Adrien Brody's character and one Predator have to sort of like team up to fight against a more bigger Predator. But it's much more like focused on, comparatively speaking, in Predator 2, which actually gives something nice and very interesting in this film. Something that really makes one wonder more about these people. While in Predators, we like what we see, we enjoy it, but we don't really have many other questions. So with that, I'm giving this round to Predator 2 for giving us mythology that may not be as much in quantity, but still has a little more of a quality content to it. Anyway, let's go on to the fifth round. This is arguably the most divisive round of this face-off, and that's the setting of the film. In Predator 2, it takes place in Los Angeles 10 years later in 1997. In Predators, it takes place sometime in the early 21st century, never really explained when, on an alien planet that's basically one entire jungle, very similar to what was seen in Predator back in 1987 with Arnold's character in Central America. Now this is where the fight of this face-off really takes place. Part of the reason why Predator 2 didn't do as successful at the box office or with critics on initial release was the change in setting. That and coupled with other variables such as it not having Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the setting is definitely a factor here. You see, you have one awesome movie that takes place in a jungle, which gives a much more of a horror vibe to it, compared to a city, Los Angeles. Granted, the city has its own type of fear and horror, but the last horror movie to take place in a city, back in that time period, was Jason Takes Manhattan. If you see my mini review of that movie, you know that doesn't really go out well. But I do have to admit, the setting of Predator 2 does give it a more gothic atmosphere, not too unlike some Batman stories, which is actually very interesting to see played on screen with these kinds of characters. Now, Predators takes place on a jungle planet, which is much more similar to the original film, and makes people a little bit nostalgic for the original. And the action, of course, is pumped up a little bit, so it does bring its own new thing in a familiar environment, which is something that people generally do like to see, especially with a franchise this old. But part of the reason why most franchises start to fail is because they do the same thing, the same setting, the same characters, same tropes over and over again. So would you gravitate more towards a sequel that's newer with more polished action in a familiar setting, or do you want to gravitate towards the sequel that follows the same kind of characters, take place in a different setting that gives a different kind of atmosphere that's actually very interesting to play out on screen. This is actually really tough for me to pick. Because neither one of these movies is actually bad. I really like both of them, but the setting is very divisive. But if I have to be honest, there is something to say about the city atmosphere of Predator 2, so I'm going with that movie. Hey, there's a reason why The Predator, coming out next month, is set in the suburbs and not in another jungle. They like to experiment with new locations, so obviously there's some value in that. So, Predator 2 wins this round and wins the face-off, making this the second best installment of the Predator franchise. Now, like I said, I do really like both these films. They're really fun to watch. But comment down below what you think, like, subscribe, share, and Dr. Cinema. See you guys next time.